The perpetual struggle on football managers trying to get players you don't want on your team anymore off your freaking team. And on FM22, it's worse than ever. We're talking about transfers and loans, people. Transfers and loans. Both of them. They both count. But fortunately, we have discovered in collaboration with you awesome people who basically showed me that this could work on my Twitch stream, which you can check out at the link down in the description, a really special trick to help you get rid of players you might think you have no shot at getting rid of. Hey, boss. I already sold you. How are you here? How are you here? Leave. So first, what causes you to want to get rid of players in the first place? There is the first cause. They're not good enough. Hold on. They stink. They suck. Hold on. They're not good. They have the balance of a newborn deer. They have the pace of a tortoise. Their general intelligence as a player could be described as lacking. When they touch the ball, the crowd oohs and ahs for the wrong reason. They're just a player you simply don't want to have on your team anymore because you do not think they are good enough. But what's the second reason you might want to move a player? You want to cash in. Sometimes this transfer value column on the right side can be very, very enticing. And when you see an incredibly high number there, you're thinking, gee, I could really use the money. Maybe you need that money for a transfer to build some new facilities to make sure that you don't go bankrupt. A lot of great things that you could need money for, like say by selling Fernando Novaes, whose name is perpetual torture to pronounce. And that's honestly another reason you might want to sell somebody. Or maybe you brought someone better in, you've changed your tactic and this player is redundant, but you want to sell them to capitalize on the value that they have now. The third reason is you want the player to develop, but they're 18 plus and you can't give them playing time, / you don't have a B team that you feel like is the high enough playing level for them. And the fourth reason, you don't want to pay their wage. This will help you in those situations as well. Because there's nothing more nightmarish than having to live with the fact that you made a mistake, or at the very least, somebody else made a mistake that you are now trying to clean up, and giving that amount of money to that person for that long. Me here. I just want to let you know there's another factor that goes into all of this. It leads to most of the frustration that you have, like when you offer somebody out for loan for zero anything as a regular starter and you get no offers and you go, well, how does nobody, right? Because it's a decent player. The player's ambition and their interest and where to go will dictate how this whole process works. So if you're trying to loan out a player and nobody's offering, it's because that player is not interested in going to play for those clubs that would actually want them. Like a sixth division team in England isn't going to make an offer. One, they probably don't know the player exists because of scouting stuff. Even if they did, they couldn't offer because the player doesn't want to go there. I'm going to leave. I'm going to go back to the future now. Have a great day. So now for the super special trick that's going to save you in instance after instance. And you get to see me understand this in real time because this happened on stream today and it was so revelatory, so incredible to me that I didn't know this, and so incredible to me that this was how the system worked that I needed to sit down and make a video about it right away. What we're talking about are unwanted lists and development lists. If you don't know what they are, they're in the transfer section under general manager or director of football, depending on what language your game is in or depending on where your game is purchased. Like in the United States, it's general manager. This doesn't matter. But if you go to whatever your director of football general manager is called in your language, in your custom, you will see an unwanted list and a development list. And both of these lists are there for you to put players onto and have your director of football, general manager, your person, get rid of those players. And what we have discovered, and this is the huge part, is that they can get offers you can't. Have a look. Now I'm trying to loan these players out for development and I am not getting the loans that I need. But watch what happens once we put them onto the development list. Hey, there it is. Now I didn't know how it worked, so I missed out on a couple of offers. Funny Zealand failing, amazing pain, sadness, and dark deepening despair as my team willows and wilts under the weight of too many players with great potential that don't actually get the loans that they need, causing my viewership to decrease and the interest in my saves to diminish until all of a sudden I resort to violence, smashing a keyboard, getting myself banned from all platforms, and begging on the street for money outside of the Floridsdorfer arena that I once ruled. but I didn't know how it worked. The good thing is now I know how it works. We'll start with the development list, since that's what you just saw me using. If you want to add a player to that, you just click on that player, you click on transfer, and then you click add to the development list. Now I'm going to save before we do this. Whoops. So we add Alex Nazareno to the development list. You can also add to the unwanted list. There's a lot of specifications there, but we're going to the development list. That takes me immediately to the development list with my players that are here. And if you click on him, you see you have a lot of information for what your general manager, your director of football is able to accept, what offers they should be looking for. And this is where it gets really cool. You can narrow in if you want to preserve somebody's homegrown status while they're being loaned out. You want them to not have to adapt to speaking a new language, whatever, so that they can focus more on developing and less on adapting to the new custom. I can just go in here and say, look, we will only take loans in Austria. We will only take loans in the Austria Bundesliga. Like, there's 11 teams that can loan this guy. You can assign your training facility rating, and it's kind of hard to convert the stars into the words in your head. So poor is a half star, and you just count up: half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5, right? So you can count up, figure out exactly where you want that to be, your agreed playing time, and your salary percentage. Also, if you don't want them to be actively offered out at all times, you can put it on hold and they won't do anything. They're just sitting there, and you go in and start the negotiations again when you feel comfortable. Or you go in here and you set a date for them to leave the development list, essentially, or to not be offered out, where they are going along for a while, and then once they hit that date, if they don't get a deal, then they don't get a deal. It's a completely autonomous way to handle transfer negotiations that I would normally hate and tell you not to use, except when you can't find deals yourself, these freaking people can. But the huge tip to keep in mind when you're looking at loans in particular is put that percentage at basically the lowest possible threshold that you would want, because they're going to court the best offers, and then they're going to accept and reject them based off whether they meet your criteria. But you, if you end up with some nice quick fingers, have the ability to go into transfers and transfers out, as you see me do here, and cancel a loan out like I did with Nazareno. You think he'd want to just go play in the second division for a year? Because that's what I want to do with him. I would want him to go play in the second division so that he gets playing time. You have the ability to cancel these transfers. You don't have the ability to control accepting or automatically rejecting them. That is stuff that is largely done by your general manager, but they quite literally just get offers that you haven't seen, like you saw with Marcus Arling. We couldn't get a first team playing time offer in a top European league anywhere. He got one in a day. Or two. I can't remember, honestly. What about the unwanted list? Let's remove Nazareno from this list. Let's go back and find poor Alex Nazareno again, and let's put him on the unwanted list. Let's put him on the unwanted list and sell for value. And this screen is fortunately much simpler than using your development list. You have your asking price that you've agreed with the player, which you can obviously, and probably most of the time, will want to do sell for asking price and then set that automatically. You got to make sure you clear it with the player though, which you do by clicking on the player, going to transfer status, doing this whole song and dance and seeing if the agent's happy with it. But if the agent's happy with it, that doesn't necessarily mean the player's happy with it. So back off by a few million to make sure the player's happy with it. Worst case scenario, the player comes to you. You have to deal with this whole thing. If you want to watch a video about that, I'm going to link it up there. It's about dynamics and how to deal with asking prices. They're a freaking nightmare, and you never are quite sure if they're going to get mad about it or not. If they do get mad, you can just negotiate to where they want their asking price to be, but their valuation of themselves changes a lot, and it can be a mess. If you really don't like the person and you are fighting with them, selling for asking price, setting an asking price you would accept, and then you can put on hold and set an expiration date. Other than that, they're just going to work automatically to get that amount of money. If they don't, they won't sell them, and it's very simple. And the key reason this is incredibly valuable is because they get offers you can't get. I always prefer to handle transfer negotiations myself. I have more confidence in myself than a computer, which in a few years might be the wrong way to think about things, but right now is still the right way to think about things. This whole AI apocalypse can go sit over there, and you crucially preserve that short window to reject offers that they have accepted if for whatever reason you don't actually like them, or for loans you feel like that's not an offer you want to take. So it works. It's functional. Even for those players you hate, you just want to get rid of, there's a sell or release option where you can just have your general manager constantly trying to get rid of the player any way humanly possible. But outside of that special trick, there are some more things you can do to get rid of players. Specifically, if you hate a player, you can take them from your squad and put them in your reserve or youth team. This will anger them and make them more likely to accept bids from teams they might not have accepted bids from teams before. Because nothing's more frustrating than when a player doesn't want to leave, and putting them in a reserve team can motivate them to leave. You can also, if you're very comfortable with the game mechanics, pick a fight with players by changing their playing time or something. If they don't want to accept a transfer before that, they're more likely to accept a transfer after that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, here's a picture from a stream, and in this little section on the left, you will see how interested a player is in accepting a transfer. And if it says anything less than, oh my goodness, I'm going to be unsettled, you're going to be fine rejecting it. And if it says anything above, I'm not interested, they do have an opportunity to sign for that club. But if they're not interested, you still do this. They don't want to leave, their contract's fantastic, well, maybe anger them a little bit. If there are interested teams not making offers even when a player is on one of your general manager's lists, you can go to specifically targeted offers by clicking over from details to targets. And when you go to targets, you can go to the right and propose to specific clubs by finding the club in a team finder, which the UI is admittedly a little janky, but you can find the clubs in there, or all the clubs in Austria, for example, and then propose that transfer specifically to them to try to instigate a negotiation. And that subtle art of setting asking prices earlier, that can also help you. If you go in here and you set an asking price, it can be, in many cases, below the value that a player actually believes that they are worth, or the value that a team thinks they would have to pay to get that player. The obvious advantage here is that if I take Owen Vanderhorst, whose value is probably 15 to 20 million, and put his transfer value at 9, because for whatever reason, like the reasons we discussed above, I want to get him off my team and capitalize now, then putting that asking price out there will attract greater interest. No matter what happens to the asking price, though, an issue you might have is the person legitimately does not want to leave for anyone. And if you try to put them on the transfer list, it might say they would be unsettled if you did that. So what you need to do is go back and forth between putting them on the transfer list and offering them out, because in the top left of offering them out, it will also give you an idea of how they feel about it. And what I have found through experience is that players, even if they want to stay, will often either be okay with being transfer listed or offered out. And of course, if you transfer list them, then you can offer them out because they're ready to move. There is usually a way around that, so check both. And with that, I look forward to hearing your success stories of unloading unwanted individuals in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please, of course, subscribe. We are working on bringing more content to you where I am not just sitting in this chair, and I am super looking forward to that, but we need as many people to hit subscribe as possible, or else we won't be able to go to Greenland. Actually, we're going to go to Greenland for the Greenland Footballing Championships, and that is one of our big steps into making cool, awesome, in real life videos about the game that we both love. So subscribe to help support those sorts of things. And if you want to watch another video where I give you even more tips about how to get rid of players, that video is right here. It was made a little while ago in a separate game, but it still has some good stuff in it, so check it out.